Hey guys, today we have Navanshu and he is having total 5.3 years of experience in Java, Spring Boot and microservices. And guys, those who want to give same free mock interview, please fill out the form below in the description. So now let's get started. Hey, hello Navanshu, how are you?
Hello, Faizan. I'm good. How are you?
Yes, I'm also good. So are you excited for this interview?
Yes, very excited.
Okay, okay, nice, nice. So now, Navanshu, can you please introduce yourself and your recent project in brief?
Sure. So, my name is Navanshu. I'm currently staying in Pune. So, I completed my engineering in the year 2020, and since then, I'm working in IT. So, I have around 5.3 years of experience. My tech stacks include Java, Spring Boot, microservices. Along with that, I have also have hands-on experience on AWS services like S3, ECS, Lambda, code pipelines. And I have used Postman to test our REST API endpoints. For documentation, I have used Confluence. For version
Mm-hmm.
control, we have used GitHub. Apart from that, we maintain Jira ticket, and we have been following Agile in my all 5.3 years of experience. I have around experience in domains like identity and access management, demand and supply.
Okay.
This is a high-level overview about
Mm-hmm.
myself, and currently I am with Volkswagen as a senior software developer.
Okay, okay, that's very nice, Navanshu. So, are you leading any feature as of now?
No, not as of now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, are you using transactional annotation in your project?
Yes, not specifically, but
Not
since we are
specifically.
using Spring Data JPA, it
Okay,
internally uses transaction annotations.
okay, okay. So, can you tell me the difference between transactional annotation on a public and a private method?
On public and private methods.
Mm-hmm.
So transaction annotation, transaction is like it is a group of action, right?
Okay.
Whether it happens for all or it doesn't happen. So basically, a
Mm-hmm.
transaction, if it succeeds, it should be complete. If at all anything is failing, it should be rolled back.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of when we use transaction in internally in our repository layer.
Mm-hmm.
It is basically to achieve the atomicity, consistency, and durability of our data into the
Mm-hmm.
database, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes.
But if yes, but
Okay.
if you
But
specifically ask, yeah, yeah.
yeah, but if I put a transaction annotation on private method, what will happen?
If you put transactional annotation on a private method,
Mm-hmm.
so transaction annotation on private
Will
method,
it work or not?
uh, uh, it should work.
No, no,
But
not
I'm trying to figure out. Okay.
Yeah, it won't work because transactional annotation works on proxies and all, and proxies don't work on
Mm,
these
private.
private methods, right?
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Can you tell me the difference between authentication and authorization?
Yes, authentication is like proving your identity. It is
Okay.
what you are. And
Mm-hmm.
authorization is once you have proved your identity, authorization is
Mm-hmm.
whether you are authorized to access that. So that is
Okay.
a very basic difference between authentication and authorization.
Okay. Cool. Can you tell me how does Spring Security's filter chain work?
Spring security filter change in terms of like what?
Have you used a filter, security filters in your Spring Boot application?
No, so we are using OAuth 2 and JWT for authentication and
Okay, so
authorization.
how
Uh,
JWT works?
so if I tell you an entire flow, so as soon
Mm-hmm.
as a user hits our URL, okay, it
Mm-hmm.
first comes to our application. Our
Okay.
application is configured to communicate with the IDP, which is your identity provider. First,
Mm-hmm.
it checks the request that session exists for that request. If that session exists, then a single sign-on is successful. It is allowed to access the downstream services. If not, the request is routed to an external IDP, where external IDP will validate that request, will sign the JWT using the private key of the .p12 file, and that signed JWT comes into our application, right? Then our application, what it will do? our application, it has the sign JWT. Now it will make a call to the backend service. Before making the call to backend services, interceptor will intercept it, clone that request, attach the JWT as a header, basically the bearer token, and then it will
Mm-hmm.
flow down to your backend service. The backend service is configured as a resource server. So what it
Mm-hmm.
will do, it will fetch the role. So in our JWT, the main claim is the user's role, whether it is a
Mm-hmm.
logistician, is it a buyer. Depending upon that, we will fetch the role, and then we will allow the access and we'll pass it as a header, so that the request can be flown to downstream services. If at all the authentication fails, then we give the 401 error. If not,
Mm-hmm.
then the request is allowed to flow to the downstream services. And I
Cool.
can also tell you that how our backend validates whether that request is correct or not. So with the help of the public key, it will make a call to your IDP
Mm-hmm.
via JWKS, and then it will identify whether it is authenticated request or not, and then it will
Okay,
provide
okay.
the access.
Got it. Hey guys, I want to share something important with you. Actually, Navanshu prepared from our interview preparation kit and cracked multiple interviews. We have also referred him to the multiple companies. So let me tell you, the interview preparation kit has four main parts. First is complete interview preparation material. It is a step-by-step material made by me, experts, and MNCs interviewers. 99% of the questions asked in interviews are covered in it. Second is two real enterprise client projects. Code and video recorded sessions are there, and you can add this in your resume. Third is lifetime chat support. Here you can ask your doubts anytime. Fourth is referral support. Here we help you to get referred to the top MNCs. So basically, the material is organized as per your experience level and covers Java, Spring Boot, Spring Security, Spring Data, JPA, Microservices, Kafka, Maven, Git, coding questions, stream API coding questions, and many more. You can buy just the complete interview preparation material or the full kit with project supports and referrals. I have added the links in the description below. So now moving to our interview. And guys, before moving to our interview, since we have Navanshu here, so we can ask him about feedback. So Navanshu, can you please go ahead?
Yeah, so guys, please check out that material. It is awesome. It covers almost every question interviewers ask nowadays, and
Mm-hmm.
do check it out. It's great stuff there.
Okay, thank you. So now moving to our interview. So Navanshu, can you tell me how does Spring auto configuration work under the
So
hood?
depend Yeah. So depending upon the dependencies that you have added in your
Mm-hmm.
pom.xml file,
Mm-hmm.
and when you run your application, depending upon the dependencies, Spring auto configure stuffs for you. There is a class path, and
Mm-hmm.
it takes the reference from that pom.xml file, and lots of dependencies are available. Depending upon that, it will auto configure stuffs for us. It will auto configure different classes, libraries,
Mm-hmm.
basically everything that you need to for the configuration purpose of your project, so that you focus on your logic building code, your business, rather than worrying about the configuration and stuff. So that's how it happens.
Correct. How does Spring decide which beans to create internally?
It scans. So we have annotation, okay, at the
Mm-hmm.
Spring Boot application annotation. So it internally has component scan. So what that component scan will do, it will scan all the annotated beans, and those annotated beans would be registered into your application context, basically Spring container. In this
Mm-hmm.
way, it decides like which all beans to be considered while the Spring Boot application runs.
Got it. Got it. Can you explain the Spring Bean life cycle from instantiation to destruction?
Okay, life cycle. So life cycle is from right from the spring creation to the spring destruction.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as your Spring Boot application runs, the run method gets triggered. When the
Mm-hmm.
run method gets triggered, environmental properties get loaded, and
Mm-hmm.
depending upon that, your application context gets created. Right, and your annotated beans get registered into the application context. By default, the scope of that bean is singleton, because the default scope of a bean is singleton. So as soon as that happens, that is the bean, we can say the bean getting created. Now, as and when the beans are required, we have like constructor injection, setter injection, field injection, depending upon whatever you have used. It will automatically inject those beans into your system. then you can play with it. You can like depending upon the scope, you can
Mm-hmm.
change the scope, make it prototype or session or application. Depending upon the requirement, you can make the scope, and that's how you will be able to mold the beans as per your requirement. And once its use is over, probably possibly,
Mm-hmm.
like if we can say its purpose is served, then it's like that's the basically the life cycle
Got
of
it.
the
Got it.
bean, we can say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know about post construct and pre destroy annotations?
uh, yes, yes.
Please go ahead.
At the So added post construct annotation is basically used when you want to configure something at the time of
Mm-hmm.
the when you want to configure a bean at the time of the application startup. So
Okay.
anything you want to configure right at the time of the Spring Boot application start, you put it into added post construct.
Mm-hmm.
Example, if I'll give you, if you want to whenever your application you want when it starts, you want default values to be loaded into the database. That code you can
Mm-hmm.
put it in your added post construct annotation. It is as good as an interface. We have one interface called command line run, right?
Mm-hmm.
It internally has a run method, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
is as good as that. Whatever you want to run at the time of application startup, you put in that run method, which is
Mm-hmm.
implemented by your main class. Main class means the class which is annotated with that Spring Boot application. So it is
Mm.
as good as using that. So anything you want to run at
Got
the
it.
time of application startup, you put it in at that post construct.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so since we use some injections like constructor injections that get oh sorry field injections, right? So my question is, why is field injection considered bad practice?
Okay, so field injection is because it is very difficult to, it is easy to write, but it is very difficult to test.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, we prefer constructor injection in production grade codes
Okay.
because, first of
Mm-hmm.
all, it serves a very important three things, like it is immutable, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is compulsory, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you write code, you need to write unit test cases for that. So
Mm-hmm.
writing, it helps us with testing. You can easily use it while injecting that object while writing the
Mm-hmm.
test cases. So basically it is easy for testing as well. That's why we prefer constructor injection over
Constructor
any
injection.
other. Yeah.
Correct, correct. Have you faced circular dependency in your career?
I have not faced, but I am
Mm.
aware about those dependencies where one
So how can we
dependency is
resolve it?
dependent. Using a setter injection, we can, if you are talking about bean wise, so we can use setter injection, or else
Mm-hmm.
on another level, we can make like we have an annotation called as if
Mm-hmm.
like at the rate qualifier we can use, or we can lazy load one of the dependencies so that the other dependency is picked up first.
Mm-hmm.
These are few of the ways wherein we can solve the circular dependency issue.
Got it. So let's say your Spring Boot REST API is experiencing slow response time under load. How would you investigate this issue and fix it?
So first of all, my first thing would be I'll go on and check the CPU utilization. I'll
Mm-hmm.
check the logs.
Okay.
I'll identify the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending upon that, I can apply, like I'll see the number of requests hitting my application.
Mm-hmm.
I can apply rate limiting there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can apply pagination.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, in the code level, I'll try to write optimized code. See, the
Mm-hmm.
main thing that makes your response slow is your database queries. I'll check whether the queries are optimized or not. If not, then I can use indexing. If I'm seeing that, okay, this query is, written such as select star, I will
Okay.
check like what all columns are actually required. I will consider those. So that is me
Got it.
optimizing the queries. Then on the database level, I can check. We can make things like I can use master slave approach where all the write
Mm-hmm.
operation happens at the master database and
Mm-hmm.
all the read operation happens through the
Mm-hmm.
slave. So that the load on the database decreases. Apart from that, we can introduce asynchronous programming. So
Mm-hmm.
these are few of the ways I will improve. We can implement
Yep, yep,
caching.
yep.
So these are few of the ways we can.
Utilize Spring Boot actuator endpoints?
Yes, yes, we can use that as well because Spring Boot actuator's health endpoint can give us the status regarding the database connectivity, its threshold values. We can
Mm,
consider that as well. Yeah,
correct, correct.
that also gives a very important insight. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's say you need to expose a paginated filterable REST API for a product catalog with millions of
Mm,
rows. How would you design
mm.
it?
Okay, I can set up a certain pagination. We can make use of Spring has provided us with a pagination. So we have pageable interface, right? So we can always define the number of page, its size
Mm-hmm.
to be displayed. So we can implement that. We have pageable interface, and we can make use of we can always give the number of pages that we want to display. So no matter how many requests
Mm-hmm.
uh, we get, and no matter how many data we have, we will always our endpoint will always give the set number of data. So with the help, basically with the help of pageable interface, we can do that.
Mm-hmm. You can do that. Correct. And also, we could use index columns for filterable fields,
Yes, yes, yes,
right?
yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Have you encountered n plus one query problem ever?
Um, okay, I have not came across that, but I know what it is and how to resolve it. So, like if I tell about the problem, so it is like if you are calling one query, which is
Mm-hmm.
internally calling, let's say 10 other queries, so that is n plus one issue. So, like if you are fetching an order based on order ID, but that order internally has 10 other products associated with that order. So that is n plus one query. You are calling one query, but
Mm-hmm.
it is internally calling 10 other queries. So that is n plus one issue. So in a like the most preferable way to fix that is using fetch join. So with that that issues can be solved. I'm sure there are other issues that as I mean other ways also we can solve it,
Mm-hmm.
but using fetch join is most preferable. So yeah.
Correct, correct. Okay, so let's say you are building a Spring Boot application that must support both SQL and NoSQL database, means MySQL and MongoDB, depending on the environment. How would you structure your Spring Boot application?
So see, when we talk about SQL, so it is
Mm-hmm.
more structured. It follows certain schema.
Mm-hmm.
When and it helps us with complex joins and queries. So
Mm-hmm.
for certain important tables, like let's say our
Mm-hmm.
database containing the user's
Mm-hmm.
product related, I will have those data stored in MySQL table.
Mm-hmm.
But for unstructured data, if I let's suppose if I have to create a notification service. So
Mm-hmm.
notification table, user notification table, like mapping, like if you are the user, your
Mm-hmm.
notification should be specific to you. I will not be able to see it. So we have notification table, we have user specific user mapping notification
Mm-hmm.
table. So for that unstructured operation, so I will have those as NoSQL databases. So
NoSQL
this is
database.
way I will plan.
Okay, got it. Okay, so moving ahead, do you know about CAP theorem, CAP theorem in microservices?
No, at
Okay,
the moment I've not
so
heard.
basically, CAP states that a distributed system can only guarantee two of the three. And what are threes? Consistency, availability, and partition tolerance
Oh,
in the microservice architecture. Okay.
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 Hmm.
So can you tell me the difference between synchronous and asynchronous communication?
Yes. So synchronous communication is like when one microservice wants to communicate with
Mm-hmm.
another microservice, it sends a request, but the
Mm-hmm.
first microservice will wait for the response that is coming from the other microservice. This means we are waiting, and then only it will proceed for the next operation. But with asynchronous programming, asynchronous communication between microservice, it's
Mm-hmm.
like you don't wait. You send
Mm-hmm.
the request. You don't wait for the response. You go
Mm-hmm.
on, carry on with your the another microservice can decide on its own term when to give get back the response. So it is
Mm-hmm.
more loosely coupled. So yeah, that's the basic difference between
Okay.
synchronous and asynchronous.
Mm, in Saga pattern, what
Hmm.
is choreography and orchestration?
So it is the two ways how you implement Saga.
Okay.
So orchestration is more centralized way. So we have
Mm-hmm.
one orchestrator service. So microservice, let's say we have three microservice.
Mm-hmm.
Microservice one and orchestrator act as a central communication channel between all these. They don't communicate with each other. They communicate via the
Mm-hmm.
orchestrator service. So if suppose one service completed its task, it will notify that orchestrator service. Orchestrator service then will ask the second service to perform its task. If
Okay.
any of the microservice fails, then a compensation service is run, which will roll back the transaction in the same order in which it happened. Similarly, if
Mm-hmm.
we talk about choreography, so choreography is event driven. Here we don't have any centralized orchestrator like we have in orchestrator service. Here it is event.
Mm-hmm.
So one service will produce an event, let's say order created. So payment service will react to that event and start its processing, like payment process. But if suppose like order service has put an event like order is unsuccessful, so in that way the payment service will not process. So it
Mm-hmm.
is basically event driven. We don't have any centralized way to handle it. So
Got
that
it.
is a choreography, and so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So, do you know the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment?
Difference between those,
Mm-hmm.
uh, continuous deployment is like that we do frequent releases,
Mm-hmm.
like when we in agile we do epic based deployment, like deliver as far as possible. But I am not sure about the exact difference, theoretical difference
Okay.
between CIs.
So, a continuous delivery is the initial step of the continuous deployment. First step is continuous delivery, then continuous deployment. In continuous delivery, every change that passes automated test is in a releasable state and can be deployed to production at any time.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yep. Okay. So let's say you are asked to design a URL shortening service. How would you do that?
So URL shortening is the basic idea behind that is
Mm-hmm.
we want one table which is
Mm-hmm.
going to hold your actual URL, your
Mm-hmm.
shortened URL, and there
Mm-hmm.
would be one ID,
Mm-hmm.
and that ID would be used to convert those to
Mm-hmm.
short and back to normal. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the basic idea behind it. Basically, how now I will design it. First of all, let me also tell you that the ID that we are maintaining in that the table I said, we can
Mm-hmm.
use base. I don't exactly remember base 32 or base 64 encoding we will use,
Mm-hmm.
and it will be auto incrementing. So that's the idea. So you don't want your URL to be this much big. You want a shorter version of it. So whenever
Mm-hmm.
a user hits the URL, it will first check whether the shortened URL exists for that URL which the user has entered. If it exists,
Mm-hmm.
it will be returned. It will make use of that ID. If
Mm-hmm.
not, then it will create one. That ID will be auto increment and the entry will be created in that table. So this is the basic idea and the
Mm-hmm.
logic behind URL shortener. And that way we can design that.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So can you tell me, can a static method be overridden?
Static method
Mm-hmm.
overridden.
Mm-hmm.
No, no, static method cannot be
Why?
overridden. Static method, it belongs to class. Overridden, so it cannot be overridden.
Okay. Okay. So can you tell me what is a double checked locking pattern for singleton?
It's basically uh, double check. So in singleton class, what we'll do, we uh, I will tell you the purpose behind that. We
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we are creating the object, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first we'll initialize one object, right? We'll have a private constructor of that singleton class.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, we will check if that object is null. Inside that, if loop, we'll create one synchronized method, and inside that synchronized method, again we will check. That is a double check wherein we are checking if that object is equals to null. If it is
Mm-hmm.
not, then we are creating the object. And uh, uh, like why we do it is the question. Mm, Synchronize we do because we don't want multiple threads to
Mm-hmm.
be accessing those. and creating the object for that.
Mm-hmm.
That is the reason why we do synchronize. And one first
Okay.
check we do because we
So, do you
hmm,
know the best way to implement singleton design pattern?
best way is I think we to implement it using enums.
Enums.
I think yeah,
Yep.
enum. So yeah, but I haven't implemented it. So I have
I think enum is thread save, something like that by default when JVM
yes,
calls.
yes, yes. So I've
Okay.
read about it that the best way
Mm-hmm.
is through enum.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's say um, there are two integers a and integer b. Okay,
Hmm.
both have a value 200.
Hmm.
Integer a is equal to 200 and integer b is equal to 200. Now, when
Hmm.
will you compare those variables if a is equal to b?
Hmm.
So what will they return? It will be false or true?
So it is the first question is like, is that integer int integer or it is a like a wrapper
In
class
wrapper
integer?
class.
Okay, it's a wrapper class.
Uh,
Um, okay, so if it is a wrapper class and you are checking, it will give true. Because what I know is like for int, it is the range is from minus 127 to plus 128. It is beyond that range, but this is a wrapper class we are using. So with wrapper class, I don't think we have that range. So if
it will
200
return
should
false
be,
because wrapper class check, I mean double equal check the reference, right?
yes, it checks the reference.
Mhm.
Okay,
And it is outside the cache range, as you said, minus 128 to 127.
minus one. Okay, so I was just getting confused whether it the cache range is for the primitive type or the wrapper class type. So okay,
No,
it
no.
it implies for a wrapper class as well, right?
Yep, yep.
Yes,
And
minus one.
if the
Okay,
values are 100, A is equal to 100, B is equal to 100,
then it
then
will
it will be true.
return true. Yeah.
Yep. What happens if you call a non-static method inside a constructor and the method is overridden in a subclass?
Uh, when we call static method inside a constructor,
When we call a non-static method inside a constructor
hmm,
and the method is overridden in the subclass.
and the method is overwritten into subclass. Uh, okay, so you have a parent class, and inside
Mhm.
the constructor you are calling a method,
Mhm.
right? And that method is overridden from
In a
the
subclass.
another class
Mhm.
in a subclass. Okay, okay, okay. So first thing is in the subclass, whenever you will create
I mean,
the object like
the main question is which method will run? Same class method or overridden method in the subclass when we call from the constructor?
uh, overridden method in the child class that will be called first.
Why?
If because it is like we can say it is a parent is equals to new child, so it will
Mm-hmm.
first call check the method that is there in the child class. It is like a runtime polymorphism we called it.
Mm-hmm.
So it will first check the child. If it is there, then it will consider that. If it is not there, then it will go to the parent class constructor. So first it will check
Yep,
the child. So
correct. Can you load the same class twice with different class loaders?
No, because a class loader loads the class into JVM so
Mm.
that into the memory so that it is made available for JVM to use. But if you load it again, no, you cannot.
No, answer is yes. The same class can be loaded multiple times by different class loader instance. But I think answer is no for
Okay,
the same class loader, something like
same
that.
class.
Mm.
Okay, so for different class loader instance, yeah, okay.
Yep, yep. Do you know what parent delegation model?
No.
No, okay. So when a class loader is asked to load the class, it first delegate to its parent class loader. Means it first asks to its parent's class loader. Only if the parent cannot find the class does the child attempt to load itself, then it will come to the child class loader. something like that.
Okay.
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 Okay, so let's say you need to design an immutable class that contain a mutable object
Hmm.
like a list. So
Hmm.
how would you design that?
As you say, first of all, if you have to design an immutable class, so
Mm-hmm.
I will make that class as final so that no other class can extend it.
Mm-hmm.
I will have attributes as private and final. Private
Mm-hmm.
because the attribute should its range should be within the
Mm-hmm.
class. Final
Mm-hmm.
because we don't want to you know
Mm-hmm.
we don't want it to change. We
Mm-hmm.
will not have any setter methods. We'll only have getter methods, and we will have
Mm-hmm.
a constructor, parameterized constructor. Now you say that we have a list. So how can so in a getter method, instead of returning the actual list, I'll return the clone of that list. So any changes that happens to
Mm-hmm.
the clone copy, the original copy is unchanged. So that's how I will you know
Correct,
deal
correct.
with the list.
Can a constructor be private?
Yes.
Okay. Can constructor be uh, static, final, or abstract?
No, because we need constructor to create the objects of those
Mm-hmm.
class.
Mm-hmm.
It it, uh, so it cannot be like static.
Yep, yep.
Uh, yeah.
Final also.
So,
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Uh, moving moving to the next question. Um, 1 second.
sure.
Uh, can class implement multiple interfaces but extends only one abstract class?
Mm, no, abstract class can implement multiple interfaces, but they need to override that abstract method.
Okay.
So they ha uh,
Okay.
they
So
cannot
tell
just leave
me,
one
let's
of the
say there is a function interface. Okay.
hmm,
Can it
hmm.
implement another interface?
Yes, it can, but in that case, it will not act as a functional interface because now it will have two abstract methods.
Okay. But I want to make that interface a function interface. If there is an interface A and another
Hmm.
interface B, and A is a functional interface, and A
Hmm.
wants to implement B, and A also wants to be a functional interface. So is it possible?
Um, it will not be possible because if you are implementing an interface B, it
Mm.
would be having its abstract method, and you
Okay.
will implement that interface. So now your interface has two abstract method, but and the rule of functional interface says that it should have only one abstract
One.
method, although it is
But what if the interface doesn't have any abstract method? Interface B.
but interface it is compulsory. No, it should have at least one abstract
No, it
method.
is
It can
compulsory for functional interface, I think. Like
okay.
it must have exactly
It
one
is an
abstract method. But I don't
okay.
think so. There is a compulsion in interface
Okay. Then yes, then it can act as a functional interface as
functional
well when you're
interface.
implementing. We
Mm-hmm.
have that one interface called as a comparator. So it
Mm-hmm.
has like two methods, compare and equal.
Mm.
Equal coming from the object.
Okay.
So
It
so
won't
we have
count.
that.
Okay.
It won't count. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. So moving ahead, do you know the difference between process and thread?
Yes.
Yep.
So the process is thread you can consider as the lightest uh, uh, a substance and that is able to do a work and a a thread to function you need process
Mm-hmm.
so inside process there would be thread, there can be multiple thread inside that process. So a thread needs process for its functioning, and process is like it inside an operating system there can be number of
Mm-hmm.
processes which would be doing the job for you. So
Okay.
yeah.
Have you faced deadlock situation in your project ever?
mm, Not quite, but I'm aware about the concept.
Okay. How can we get rid of deadlock?
So like deadlock is like when one of the thread is
Mm-hmm.
depending on another thread, which in turn depends on another thread.
Mm-hmm.
So we can, make use of, methods like wait, thread dot wait,
Mm-hmm.
thread dot sleep. Then we can notify
Okay.
and respawn the sleeping thread. So in
Mm-hmm.
that way we can establish the communication so that deadlock situation doesn't happen.
Okay. Got it. Okay, Navanshu. So yeah, it's done for me, and it was a very, very nice interview.